did you have it mapped out exactly how the house flows and where things were? Or, because I thought the almost equally ingenious is if you either had that or it was deliberately wrong. Like
right,
The Shining, right, exactly. Yeah. So like, how did you lay that out in
like in the script stage, it was like dream logic, but then Phil Messina, our production designer, who has designed everything from like created the Hunger Games franchise, like the look of that, to Darren Aronofsky's Mother, which has a similarity in terms of like a house that's kind of unveiling itself. It all was meticulously planned out in terms of like thinking through the character psychology, how to rebuild this, what happens if he needs to cover up his tracks, and figure out like all the mechanics of the behind the scenes that we don't want to bore the audience with. But it does all have a connection, but it all feels like it goes in a circle, much like, you know, the movie in that respect.
You're talking about servicing performances and servicing this incredible artist that we had, Chung Chung, to shoot the movie. Phil Messina and the guys, they designed the set. We designed the entire house on stages just outside of Vancouver, and they built the library upstairs, and then we actually had stairs leading down into the basement set. And so the actors were actually able to descend into the set in that great shot where the camera pulls back. Like, we were able to do that all on the physical set, which was remarkable.
One of the, in addition to the religion, faith aspects of this, one of the other things I noticed that the film deals with is older men underestimating younger women. Or you could blow it up even just men underestimating women, but particularly I think the ages are important here. And in particular, I think Sophie's character, who comes across as very childlike at certain points, and the fact that she's matches what Reed is doing in so much of this, and challenges him and fights back and fights back, and is revealed to be much more intelligent by the end of the film. How much did that play into what you wanted to say here?
Yeah, it was something we had been observing in life. Obviously, we all observed that dynamic in life with men and women, but I mean, we were observing it in the Mormon culture. This kind of feeling of representation of Mormons kind of being not taken seriously, or being portrayed as caricatures, or underestimating them, and that wasn't syncing up with our friends and extended family members that were in that church, and so it just felt appropriate for this premise to explore that, and we really intentionally designed the film both in terms of the casting and the way the dialogue's written, but also the way we're shooting the young women. We're doing everything we can to tell you that Sister Barnes is the lead character of the film. We kind of want you to think Sister Paxton is like Olaf from Frozen or something. Just this kind of like, you know, broad like comic character, and then and use that kind of expectation against both Reed and the audience, because again, that's just those are the people we know. It's like on the surface, it's like, oh, are you naive? And then you get to know them. And, no, you're not naive. But you're incredibly intelligent, and there's a lot of depth there. So.
But and Julie, maybe you can speak to this since you're more familiar with the religion. But like, I feel like that she would be conditioned in the upbringing to bury her intelligence a little bit, and to maybe not seem as intelligent as the men that she grew up with. Is that am I overstepping there?
There are scenes where you're just like, these girls are so polite.
Polite, sure.
They're so polite, and you know, they're getting ensnared and they're getting trapped, and they're being so polite. You know, my younger sister served a mission, and she was a consultant for us on the movie, and you know, Chloe and Sophia both talked about reaching out to their friends on missions while shooting, and there was definitely like a direct influence from folks from sister missionaries that were serving at the time to lean on, which I think really helped them and hopefully helped portray a more realistic look at, you know, what it feels like to be a woman in this situation.
There's a moment that unnerved me for reasons I'm still trying to figure out. When Reed asks permission to ask an awkward question, after basically a whole conversation where he hasn't cared one way or the other whether it's getting awkward, but why does he do that in that moment? Why does he? I mean, is he just trying to like reinforce his politeness, or is he?
It's always about for Reed. It's always about consent, and so he can then fold back on the argument that like I never touched you outside of putting a blade through your neck a little bit. And that to us, I think, is what's terrifying. The niceties that sometimes you allow yourselves to put forth in situations that are otherwise dangerous. I mean, you guys live in Chicago, you've all been in an Uber or a Lyft where you're like, get me the fuck out of here. But, and we've certainly had our fair share of those. And so I think it just comes from the standpoint of trying to extract yourself from a situation that's dangerous, but using all the tools in your pleasantry toolbox.
During the writing of this, was there a moment, and I'm guessing it was in the last couple of years before you actually sat down to finish it, was there a key? Was there something that was key to just unlocking the whole thing finally and getting it done? Other than just educating yourself on different religions?
No. I don't think so. What do you think, Scott?
No, like on a serious note, like I feel like it was Brian's dad passing away.
Yeah, that's a good call. That's a good call. I lost my dad.
Yeah, and it's one of those things, and I've known him since I was 11 too, so it's like losing a surrogate father, and so it felt like, oh, it's a smack in the face of mortality again. Again, that everyone in this room experiences, and I think that's where the core of this movie comes from, is trying to like tether all of us together, and even if you don't like the movie, hopefully there's something relatable in it to reflect on. But the ideas of loss and what are we actually confronted with when we leave this earth? Is it nothing? Is there something else? If there's something else, is it actually there, or are we just telling ourselves to give us comfort? And is the goal to believe in a higher power? Is it to be just a good human being? Like, we don't have these answers. We didn't give them to you in this movie because they don't exist. But I think like the pursuit of them is something that keeps us going. And every time that we lose a loved one, it's kind of anchors you back to those questions.
We get flashes of the backstory of these two young women, just little bits of information. Some of them are pretty major, but some of them are just little things. Even some of the conversations they're having before they get there reveal like the things they think about and the thing. How much backstory did you want to assign to these two? But how much did you also, because you're also holding back a certain amount, but because you want to reveal things at specific points. But tell me about pacing that.
It's not super conscious. They are real people to us. Do you know what I mean? Like they're based on people we know. We met with missionaries, but they're also people in our life, and they're fully fleshed out. So it's easy to kind of drop hints of their past and their backstory as the movie progresses. So it's all very fleshed out. Now Hugh Grant, on the other hand, wrote an autobiography of his character that was not asked for. But that's just his process. Like his process is like, I need to know what broke this man when he was 3 years old, and I don't know if we can help you with that. Working with all three of them was the biggest joy of our lives, because they all cared so much, and they all wanted it to be great, and they all did the work, really.
Last question. I want to talk about the ending, which we can actually do here, because everyone's seen it. How many different versions of the ending were there in this process? And did different people live and die? How did you sort of make that decision? Who gets to stick out to the end?
So, I mean, there really was one version of this ending, but it's the nuance to us is fantastic, because our favorite films, like I think about some of my favorite films, and they're ones that did not hit me in an impactful way the first time I see it, but I keep returning to it. Coen Brothers movies are constantly that way, and I fucking love them. But Inside Llewyn Davis, I watched the first time, and I'm like, it just ends like that? And then the more I see it, the more impactful that becomes. So there's a bit of that trying to scratch at that feeling.
But by the way, we hate talking about the ending of this movie. We only end up sounding stupid. I was reading our headline on our way here, a headline from an interview we did that said like, Beck and Woods finally reveal the secret to the ending by referencing David Spade's Joe Dirt, and I'm like, what the fuck did we say?
I don't know. We made the movie, I think, because we were scratching at it too, to a certain degree, right? Like just in life in general. So we have no satisfying answer. Sorry.
That's okay. No, guys, thank you so much for being here. Thank you all for sticking around. Thank you very much. The film is going to keep playing for the next couple weeks at the Music Box 135. Tell everyone how much you love it.